All right, Rock Fighters, we're excited to present a new sponsor to the show. That new sponsor, oboes. Yeah, no shit, really, oboes. Many of you already know oboes. They're that plucky little outdoor brand from Bozeman, and that's their name, folks. Outdoor Bozeman, oboes, get it? They stood up in 2007 in a crowded footwear space and said, you know what? There's room for me too. They're an upstart outlier with a weird name, roomy toe box, and well-built offerings for committed hikers, a combination that has attracted a loyal following for going on 20 years. And I'm happy to have oboes join the Rock Fight because they are committed to shining a light on the core activities central to many of our outdoor pursuits, hiking. You know, the thing we all do, but few talk about. We are unified by hiking, everybody, and oboes? They love hiking. That's something I can get down with. Over the coming months, we'll be sharing news and products from our friends in Bozeman. So welcome to the Rock Fight, oboes. And now, let's cue the intro. Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and you've heard us do the top 5 footwear brands in the outdoor industry. You've heard us do the top 5 gear brands in the outdoor industry. That means that next up, it's accessories, and that's what we're doing today. But before we get to that, if you subscribe to Rock Fight's weekly newsletter, if not, do it now and you'll get it tomorrow. This is a real newsletter, guys, with real content, not just another outdoor link aggregator. Head to rockfight.co, click join the mailing list to sign up. We'd love for you, if you're new around here, or even if you're not, to subscribe and join the Rock Fight by hitting the follow button on whatever podcast app you are listening to us on. Also give us that 5-star rating and come back to the Rock Fight this Wednesday, where Justin Housman and I will be taking our weekly turn through headlines to come out of the outdoor community, and then come back on Friday, where Eoin Comerford and I will be talking about the North Face and their latest Investor Day. But for right now, let's start the show. All right, everybody. Today, our top and only story is brought to you by your hub for ultralight outdoor gear, Garage Grown Gear. And if we've learned one thing while doing the Rock Fight, it's that our audience loves it and probably hates it a little bit too when we do big top 5 lists. So today, we're going to be deciding what the top 5 outdoor accessory brands are. And in order to do that, we've assembled almost the normal Rock Fight brain trust, one deviation. We got Justin Housman here. We got Rock Fight consigliere Eoin Comerford. Producer Dave is missing today, but we're very excited to bring in the latest addition to the Rock Fight team. She's an author, a journalist, and perhaps most importantly, she's a backpacking bidet enthusiast. Shawnté Salabert is here, everyone. Welcome to the show, Shawnté.
Oh, man, thank you. What an intro. I do love a bidet. So, guys, today, out of like the literal hundreds of outdoor accessory brands, are you guys nervous? Today, we're going to try to whittle down to the top 5.
That is true. I mean, it is literally, there are hundreds of accessories. We've done footwear, we've done gear. Now we're doing accessories. I mean, are you nervous? Actually, is really the question. Are you nervous about doing this, Shawnté? Your first time here, and you got to go right into accessories.
Mostly deeply nervous, but it's mostly because I feel like I'm going to end up fighting you guys a little bit, and I don't want to fight. Although it is the Rock Fight, so I guess little bit of fighting.
Oh, absolutely.
I promise I won't fight you, Shawnté.
Thanks, Justin.
I'm going to defer entirely to Shawnté's opinion on everything here today.
That's probably smart.
Yeah. I love this podcast.
Justin, last time we did this, you said that ranking gear would be easier than footwear. What are you expecting this time around?
Total chaos. I mean, I don't even use 90% of the things on this list. So,
but that doesn't mean you won't have an opinion.
True, but I won't have an informed one, which is probably for the best.
Oh, and given the breadth of accessory brands, could this category surpass Solomon Gate in the annals of Rock 5 top 5 pure misses? Do you think there's a possibility that we'll beat the Solomon miss?
I think the only thing that's guaranteed is that we will piss some people off. But I would say, I don't know that we'll miss like a Solomon level brand. That was pretty special. But there's a lot of iconic brands in here, and people get pretty picky about their accessories, whether it's a multi-tool or something, what they like in terms of their backpacking food. I mean, people get pretty wound up about this stuff. So I'm sure we're going to get some people pissed off, which is half of the goal, let's face it.
And should we tell the audience now that actually that's why producer Dave isn't here, is because we're just blaming him for the Solomon miss now. He's been kicked out.
He was part of yes, there we go. He was part of the research team, the crack research team.
Right. We traded Dave for Shawnté. He's now over on a lesser than podcast.
So that means you're already starting on thin ice, Shawnté. I take
That's
my
right.
earlier.
Wait.
Big shoes to fill.
No.
Yeah.
I'm just an 8.5.
Okay, so here's how this is going to work, especially for anyone who missed the previous 2 episodes. The rules are this. We're going to create a list of the current top 5 outdoor accessory brands. Like we mentioned, there's a ton of brands we could consider here. So to keep it relatively simple, we've created 7 categories that we're going to discuss. And those categories are camp, socks and feet, lighting and electronics, hydration, food, eyewear, and hats and gloves. The goal today is to end up with our top 5 outdoor accessory brands. So we will go through each of those 7 categories, identify the brands in those categories we think are worthy of potentially being on that top 5 list. And then from those finalists, we will determine which 5 are the winners. As we talk about different brands, we'll designate them as green, which means, oh, that's a brand that has to be considered automatically in. Yellow, maybe they can make the list. And then red, automatically out. And then we'll go back and debate the greens and the yellows to figure out who our finalists are. And like we just were joking about to the listener, we fully acknowledge we might miss some brands here. This is the Solomon corollary. Again, goes back to the time when producer Dave forgot all about Solomon. And so send us the most glaring omissions to myrockfight@gmail.com. By the way, that's a joke. We all forgot Solomon. That was not Dave's fault.
I didn't
$1 billion
forget it.
brand, Colin. It's just $1 billion brand. It's no big deal.
That's not that much these days.
Is it wrong
You
that that's...
should have had me.
I know.
I would have remembered.
Damn it. This whole time. She was just sitting there. We could have had her on.
I'm already a little bit. Now I've taken. You're coming with a lot of confidence here, Shawnté. You're setting yourself up to be knocked down a peg. I'm just going to warn you right off the bat.
You know, Justin, I went to the gym today and I bench pressed, so I'm feeling good.
Okay.
Strength is important, folks. So Shawnté, the one rule of thumb, and we said this the last couple of times, that we kind of, when push comes to shove, about what is the brand that you would stock in your store? I know you're a fan of the more boutique, maybe the more our sponsor Garage Grown Gear style of maybe unknown outdoor brands, or lesser known, I should say. So, but ultimately, we're looking for that kind of like that some brands people have heard of, but also some interesting things too. But that's sort of one thing we kind of look at as maybe to help you make your decision about whether you're voting for something or not. But any questions about the rules before we get going here, guys?
I have one question, and it's about the category socks and feet. Do socks not go on feet? This is a confusing category for me right off the bat.
When we generated the list, Owen generated a list based off of sales data. And within that list of accessories, and not only were there socks, there were also things like footbeds, like super feet, things like that. So for the sake of the conversation, I labeled it socks and feet because they're not all socks.
But they all go on feet.
But they're all foot in, yes.
Foot related.
They're foot related.
Yes.
In my head, this is now the feet category.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
All right, before we get started, we have to talk again about our friends at Garage Grown Gear, who is your hub for ultralight gear. They've got some exciting news this week. Actually, Justin, you and I talked about this on Wednesday. They just launched ultralight trail running shoes from Norda. Norda now available on Garage Grown Gear. Norda is a Canadian brand who is revolutionizing the concept of the trail running shoe. And it's made with biodynema and designed for superior performance and fit. These shoes are built to last. Some athletes and hikers even push them up to 1,000 trail miles. Go and check out all their features and try a pair for yourself via the link in the show notes. Just head over to garagegrowngear.com and check them out. Are you a Norda person? Shawnté, have you tried Norda yet?
You know, I haven't. As much as I shop on Garage Grown Gear, I'm going to have to check it out.
Yeah, I got my first pair coming. I'm very excited to check them out. I've been a Lone Peak purist, so we'll see what happens here.
So is it like if you have Dyneema in your product, you're automatically on Garage Grown Gear?
Yes.
Is that kind of the rule?
Yes.
That makes sense,
Yeah.
actually.
Just checking.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing. It's an application. Do you use Dyneema? Yes or no?
Yeah,
and whatever box
yes,
you
no.
check.
Right. You're in. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get started. The order we're going to go in, we're going to go hats and gloves first, then socks and the foot category, as Shawnté has renamed it. Feet. Lighting, electronics, eyewear, hydration. And we're going to end with camp, which I think is probably going to have the biggest debate of the day. So let's talk first about hats and gloves. So on our list, the two big brands to debate are really Cirrus and Hestra. There's other brands on there like Gordini and Swanee. And we should throw outdoor research in there as well.
Absolutely. Glaring omission.
Yeah.
You almost Solomon that.
Yeah, I mean, it does say here Owen is dying to add them to the list.
It did.
Colin just for some reason not.
It's a lot of work driving the spreadsheet, guys. All right?
It's you. You're the problem.
Damn it. I just wanted to blame Dave. Now that Dave's not here, I've been exposed. So let's talk about hats and gloves. How do we feel about hats and gloves? Actually, Shawnté, it's your first time. Kick us off with hats and gloves. Where do you fall when it comes to hats and gloves when it comes to outdoor accessories?
I am a sort of middle ground hat and glove wearer. I love a wool beanie, but I love a technical glove. And honestly, outdoor research is my go-to. Like when I am looking for, ephemera for other parts of my body, like away from my core self. Outdoor research. They are hat people. They've got gloves. They've got all sorts of things to put on your things. And I think they do a pretty excellent job with it too. I mean, I have absolutely bought niche gloves. Like I have a pair of wind gloves from Montbell that, that's just my nerdy thru hiker thing. But outdoor research has always been my go-to. I have owned many an OR product in my life. And I've owned way more of their accessories than I've ever owned like jackets or anything else.
Owen, went back to your Moose Jaw days. How important in the accessories category was outdoor research fairly dominant in that category and accessories in general?
Yeah, pretty much. Everything from obviously their gloves, a great glove line, but a great hat line too. I mean, their sun hats were top sellers. Just a very very broad range of products, and a lot of products that really just hung on forever. I mean, just every season you'd sell the same stuff.
I always think of them as for gaiters, probably first and foremost. Honestly, is when I think of
they're
well, that's also an accessory.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, save that for the feet. Is that
foot?
Well,
feet.
Yeah,
ankle category.
Yeah, the coveted lower leg category.
Ooh, saucy.
I will.
I do think brands do get sort of a check mark in terms of if you can only have 5, if they cover other categories as well. Just
good point.
Throwing that
good
out
point.
there.
Justin, how are you feeling about hats and gloves here?
I mean, literally the only brand that I ever. As far as hats go, I don't really care. Does it have a bill? I'll put it on. I've never considered a hat brand in my life for like a standard cap. But if I'm going to wear a sun hat, it's going to be outdoor research. I own 2 of them, and for some reason I have a pair of outdoor research gloves right next to me. They're the only gloves I own too. So I know Hestra. I don't know most of these other brands on here. I've had Gordinis; they were, I guess, fine. But my go-to for either of these is going to be outdoor research. It's
funny because Hestra is the dominant. Again, this is old data, but they were the dominant player here in terms of revenue, with Cirrus coming in second, and outdoor research a little bit further down the line. It is kind of that, it's just surprising to me. And I know that, this is an older report, but you would think that outdoor research would be the number one in this category. The one thing I'll give them though is they made a very famous hat out of Gore-Tex, which I don't think any hat should be made that you'd wear in the sun should be made out of Gore-Tex. That's a terrible move by you guys, outdoor research. I don't care how much it's sold. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hestra for me though makes just the most beautiful product. I mean, if you've actually tried their gloves, they are just wonderfully made, and from a specialty perspective, they are the high end player, right? And they have wonderful merchandising options. It's just a really, really fine product, and at a higher price point, which I think probably drives some of the retail volume that we see here. But as a retailer, if you want to play in that upper level, Hestra would be where you'd want to go.
Where can I ask you a question here? I have never, like these other brands I'm familiar with, Hestra, I do not know, and I've been to many an OR. What is it? Ski gloves? Like what's their vibe?
There's ski.
This is why this Southern Californian who grew up poor does not know what they are.
Ski and like mountaineering too, but I think ski is the big one for them.
Yeah, and Cirrus is kind of the catch-all for everything accessories, right? And that might be the check for them would be if you're bringing them into your shop, you're going to get a lot of different stuff and kind of cover a lot of bases. The one thing, and it sounds like we're all leaning outdoor research here, but the one question I want to ask, if we choose outdoor research, does that mean we can't include them in our apparel conversation in a few weeks?
Why?
Well, don't be so exclusionary, Colin.
Yeah, can't have it.
I mean, I don't think
one brand on 2 different lists.
I'll like forecast that I highly doubt they would make my top 5 in apparel, but I mean, I don't see why not.
Same.
So outdoor research, green. We're saying green for outdoor research.
Green.
For me, but also, I mean, like this is a huge caveat for a California guy who doesn't ski. Like gloves are barely part of my,
But
equipment.
outdoor research covers that, right? They kind of, it seems like the breadth of the line is really what makes them should be the winner in this the category crown for hats, gloves, and.
I also feel like hats are probably the most like important to have, but also totally unimportant what it's like made out of and how well it's made. I mean, like you get a $4 trucker hat at the gas station is gonna be fine. You know, like
unless you're talking
your eyes.
insulation, then it's a little
Right.
different.
Yeah, totally.
Actually,
Yeah.
not even
And again,
that. I got some pretty shitty beanies that'll keep you plenty warm on a cold day.
Yeah, I feel like it's weird. You have to have a hat, but they're also you can make one out of like a shirt. You know, like it just kind of not a lot of like innovation going on there.
Justin, would you wear a hat made out of Dyneema?
Oh boy, would I?
Lloyd Vogel would.
God.
Yes, he would.
I mean, if you just gave it to me,
He
sure.
probably has.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
I made it for you in my garage
yeah.
that I don't have.
I wonder if they exist. Surely they exist. But I mean, hats are already pretty lightweight.
Some men have a man cave. Lloyd Vogel has a Dyneema room in his house. You know,
Someone is listening to this episode right now, and they are going to send us their prototype after the show.
probably.
I always wanted a $400 cap, so perfect.
That's all I want.
I think we got outdoor research is green coming out of the hats and gloves category. I think that's what we're going to do. We can come back to it if we need to. I think I don't really know. I mean, everybody else, just to give them a mention, we had Gordini, we had Swanee, you know, McDavid's on here. I don't know how you make a case for any of them. And honestly, just again, the breadth of the line. When you're talking accessories, like outdoor research needs to be considered. If nothing else, for the legacy of their gaiters, which isn't even hats and gloves.
Ankles.
Go ahead.
I just said ankles.
And ankles, yes.
The
Cover your
coveted
ankles,
ankle.
everybody. God, this is America. We're
Please.
puritanical. All right. Let's move on to, now this could be a really long conversation, or frankly, it could be really short. We have socks and feet. So I listed the main contenders, and we can touch on everybody else in this category, but the main contenders I had listed as Smart Wool, Darn Tough, and Super Feet. I wanted to include to justify the title of the feet category, Shawnté. I want to make sure we had a non-sock in here as well. But actually, why don't you kick us off, Shawnté, because I know you were very passionate about a brand that wasn't on the original list.
And it's because, listen, Colin, most of us have toes, and we can be so lucky as to swaddle them in individual little fabric tubes so that they don't get blistered. I am an Injiji fan. I love it. I love having a little home for each toe. I do a lot of backpacking, as you know. I do a lot of trail running, and having that beautiful place to put my toes where the skin is not on skin is key for me. But also, you may not know, but for a while, Smartwool actually made toe socks, and they were my favorite. I will say they did wear out a little quicker than my Injijis do, so that may be why they decided to pull those off the market. I'm not sure. I was not in those meetings, as it turned out.
Are you calling them Injijis?
Injiji?
It's Injinji.
Injinji?
Injinji. You're missing an N. You love them so much, you don't know how to say them, you know?
She's so quick she just wants to say it.
I just want to say it fast. Sometimes you have to take a letter out for that.
Fun story about those Smartwool toe socks. That was because a lot of their Smartwool sales reps also had Vibram 5 fingers back in the day when those things were blowing up. And it was I'm not kidding. It was a lot of pressure from those reps. Like, oh, you got to have a toe sock because they were all selling 5 fingers.
Love to have a 45-minute process of putting my shoes and socks on. That's fantastic.
But your toes feel so good afterwards, Justin. Swaddled.
Is that why they exist? I mean, is that the idea that they prevent blisters?
Yes.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
But is that why they're made?
Yeah.
It's
That's
the
one of
main
the
thing,
core
but
reasons.
it's also this idea of you go into all the barefoot phenomenon. It's part of that too. So you think about foot mobility, and there's schools of thought that having the toes be able to move on their own without being in their little constraints of regular ass socks, then that's part of it. I do think it's mostly the blister situation. I know people who do the sock liner and then they do their wool sock on top of it, and that to me just causes more friction. I just want a little tube for each of my toes.
I've actually that's interesting because I'm on the record of despising toe socks. I don't know if it's easier or not if you have small feet and small toes. I have big feet and long toes, and it's a nightmare putting them on.
It's just weird because you have such a foot fetish, so it's
I just want to throw,
I
just want to throw some socks on and just go. I don't want to play the little piggy game, try to figure out which toes where.
That's fine. You'll never know the pleasure.
But that's interesting. Now I'm curious. I've also don't really get toe blisters, but that's interesting. I have a new respect for them that I never ever considered that before. I thought it was just kind of like a gimmicky sort of thing.
Yeah, I've never had blisters between my toes.
Yeah, so but I could see how you would.
Yeah.
There is a thing, especially with runners who have an issue with that.
I enjoy the camel toe or the split toe, as you want to call it.
Sorry, you
that.
enjoy what?
You heard what I said. I said what I said.
I am not editing that out.
I'm never coming on this podcast again.
That's how booties were always referred to as camel toe booties for the longest time, and I don't think any surfer ever really thought about how funny that is until a few years ago. Now they're called split toe booties, but they were always called camel toes back in the day.
Rock Fight, now sponsored by Monistat.
I do like those. So I could work, because I could, in the wintertime, I could just throw flip-flops on and have my split toe socks. Those are great.
All right, so now that we've talked all this time about toe socks and split toe socks, so we're just giving this to Smartwool, right? I mean, that's basically what this is. We've used up all our time. We can't talk about the actual debate, which is really Darn Tough versus Smartwool.
That's true. Darn Tough does have that great return policy.
They make a great sock, but I mean, if you're going to have one sock brand, it's got to be Smartwool.
It's got to be Smartwool.
Sorry.
I feel the same way about socks as I do about hats. I mean, if wool, great. That's all I can't fathom having a sock
Right,
brand.
but if you were opening your shop, it's almost like
Sure.
Smartwool is like a top three
I
phone
guess,
call. It's
to
not
be honest,
even like,
I honestly don't think I would. I think I would stock any good sock. I don't think I mean, maybe there's brand loyalty out there, but I doubt people are going to come in and be like, "Oh, it's not Smartwool, I'm not buying it." Maybe they would. I don't know.
I would.
I don't care. I don't even think. I wouldn't look at a brand.
There's definitely brand loyalty, I would say.
I would buy any sock that
business.
isn't labeled right foot and left foot, because I think that's atrocious. I'm all for the simplicity of socks. Part of the reason I don't like toe socks, I guess, but so many pairs of my socks have a right and a left, and it drives me absolutely fucking crazy. I just want a tube to put my foot in. That's all I need.
That's what I'm saying. But one for each toe.
I get it.
I would say, because at least the Moose Show, we did bring in other sock brands over the years. Some at actually a lower price point than Smartwool, and it didn't matter. Smartwool still reigned supreme.
I wonder why that
people
is.
were willing to step up, and spend the $15 on a pair of Smartwools over, $10 on a different brand.
I tend to like their design better and their packaging better. Like I've had Darn Tough socks. They never didn't seem as cool to me as Smartwool does.
well, I can tell you, and
Smartwool
Owen,
nice.
I don't want you to out anybody, but just talking with some retailers, at least anecdotally, Smartwool easier to deal with. Darn Tough apparently doesn't have the best reputation in terms of customer service out there. Not again, that's all secondhand. I can't. That's not me saying that. That's just what I've heard. I actually prefer, I think, Darn Tough socks at this point. But I think it just, Smartwool came out of the plastic sock craze of the 90s and just kind of was the first one in, and they never let go. They've got like something ridiculous, like 60+% market share when it comes to socks, I think, not even wool socks. So it's pretty tough to say no. I mean, other brands we could consider on the list, Belega, Features, they're all having, they've all grown nicely. Bombas and Stance are doing, good things. But I mean, you look at it's like 3 times the size in terms of revenue. But when you look at this, what they're bringing in for, Smartwool versus everybody else, it's kind of pretty clear cut. Next up is food. All right, so here are the ones I kind of brought up to talk about the most, and we could touch on other ones in the category. I combined, backpacking food with, energy food. So Mountain House, Peak Refuel, Cliff, and Scratch Labs were the 4 brands I thought deserved the most attention here. And I mean, again, this might be a little bit tough to pick. Maybe we pick an energy food along with a backpacking food brand.
Yeah.
But Owen, why don't you kick us off here? What do you think about the food category?
Yeah, I would say this is one where there's a lot of personal preference involved. This taste. There's also a price point. Some of these. You've got sort of like the core players like the Mountain Houses, but then you've got some higher price point players. And actually, if you really dig deep in backpacking food, there are so many smaller companies out there doing really cool things around truly vegan options or options for different dietary aspects, different sustainability questions. But I mean, ultimately, from a size perspective, I mean, it's Mountain House and everybody else. And I would include Backpackers Pantry on this list too, along with Peak Refuel as kind of the big 3, so to speak. But yeah, it's a lot of personal preference.
Colin, remember those like pre-cooked like meat pies or whatever we tried at OR? Remember those things?
Yes, they were pretty good.
Do you remember what they were called?
No.
God, I don't either.
They were really good.
I was hoping maybe they were. I mean, I guess I recognize. I don't recognize Hammer Nutrition, so I was hoping maybe that was them. But
I mean, Shawnté, do you go with any of these on your trips? Do you do any of the Mountain House, the Peak Refuels, or do you mostly just get like the squeezable like beans and and some tortillas and just got to go cold?
I'm just doing Soylent. The thing about Mountain House and Backpackers Pantry is like there's this phenomenon that you like to call Mountain House farts, and that is that you will absolutely be farting whatever you ate throughout the night. possibly into the next morning if your stomach is feisty. But, I don't. I love, Good to Go is actually a brand I bring out with me, and it's for the reasons Eoin said. Like, they're very innovative in their recipes. Not all of them. There's some misses, but I can't have the glutens, which is a very sad thing for me, and they do a fantastic job with that. They've got some great veggie and vegan options. I tend to make most of my own backpacking food just because it's more economical and interesting and less farty. But when I look at these other brands, I think about all of the different things that I do. I run, I hike, I backpack, I climb, whatever. I am probably, if I'm stocking something in a store, I'm going to think about every person, and that every person is not a backpacker. Every person could be a Cliff person. They've got amazing brand recognition. They obviously have a huge market share, and they've got a variety of products, although I really wish they would bring back, wasn't it Cliff that did, and I could be remembering this wrong, but the pizza flavored? Do you remember those?
I don't remember that.
I don't know if it was Cliff.
It was I swear it was either Cliff or maybe.
Were they like little bites?
No.
Were they little tiny bites? They weren't whole bars, right?
They weren't bars. They weren't bites. They were like a squeezy, like a gel almost. But it was pizza.
Amazing.
Sounds terrible.
So good.
That sounds fit. I love the idea. That's great.
I want more savory gels.
I kept trying to get my sister-in-law, who was a food scientist at GU and is now a food scientist at Cliff Bar. I've constantly berated her about making roast beef flavored energy gels.
Oh God, dear God,
they won't do it.
Doing energy food, like savory energy foods, is really difficult. I can tell you that from my time. Okay,
sweet potato. I feel like sweet potato threads the line. Mere Energy had these for a while. They had like sweet potato, there were rice, molasses, whatever the little mixture is. And I loved having another option. Like do a sweet potato, put some salt in there. You got electrolytes, you have a real food. I would much rather, when I go run in the mountains, I will have my vest and I will shove sweet potato tater tots into the pockets. Absolutely, this is not a lie. And I will just eat sweet potato tater tots throughout the run. It's carbs, It's got a little bit of sugar. Anyway, I want savory. But I'm going Cliff, I guess. These are my options.
Cliff. Okay, not Scratch. I think Scratch would be my energy food pick. But I mean, if we're only picking one, should we pick an energy food and a backpacking food?
I think you have to. I mean, they're not competing against one another.
So it's basically Mountain House and Cliff. Is that what we're doing? Is that too obvious? I love Scratch. I think Scratch drinks are great.
I'm
a
huge fan of Scratch, but I mean, they don't make nearly as much stuff as Cliff does.
That's the problem, because I would obviously Pro Bar's on this list, and I would do Pro Bar in a heartbeat, but they're tiny by comparison.
I mean, same deal with Honey Stinger. Like Honey Stinger,
same.
Honey Stinger, Cliff, I'd kind of go
Honey Stinger.
Either way.
I would personally vote for over Cliff if I was stocking a store and I wanted to, because they have amazing. I've got some of their bars at home right now. They've got the Goos, they've got Chews, they've got.
They have the waffles. All you need is the waffles.
They have the waffles. So I feel like they're sort of clamoring up there to be Cliff adjacent as far as their offerings, and they taste better. I think.
Well, and what I would say about Cliff too is that they are everywhere. I mean, you can get Cliff in your local grocery store.
You get them at the gas station on the way. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So as a specialty retailer, Moose Jaw, we wouldn't touch Cliff.
All right,
that's cool. That's good to know.
It wasn't that special, and B, low margins as grocery store margins, and C, expiration dates. I mean, half the Cliff bars we used to sell ended up being donated to the staff because they were past expiration. So no, I would much rather do like a Honey Stinger versus or even a Goo versus a Cliff.
I mean, Goo's also pretty robust in terms of their offerings, but I would probably do Honey Stinger as well. And
Goo has a waffle nut too, but I think if you're basing it off of if it was a gel options, I'd say Goo. If you're kind of saying the breadth of the line, I would go Stinger. Would be my. Okay, so we'll carry Mountain House and Stinger into the finals. Does that sound good?
Beautiful.
I would. Yeah, I would.
It's good.
All right, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about lighting and electronics.
Ooh.
Today's episode of The Rock Fight is presented by Oboes, who are helping us ask the question, how do I love hiking? Let me count the ways. Number 1 on today's list is that first sip of trail coffee. It tastes like adventure and potentially questionable life choices. Number 2, the magic of trail snacks. Somehow, a peanut butter sandwich tastes Michelin-starred at over 9,000 feet. Number 3, reconnecting with your inner caveman. You walk far, you see things, you feel alive. Number 4, hiking means finding your soulmates. In this case, roads, rivers, and trails of Milford, Ohio. If you find yourself in the greater Milford area, pop in and say hi to the folks at Roads, Rivers, and Trails. While you're there, maybe buy a pair of Oboz boots. And number 5 means the Oboz Bangtail insulated winter hiking boot. There's plenty of winter left to justify picking up a pair of Bangtails featuring Vibram Arctic Grip outsole and Be-Dry waterproof technology. But the number one reason to buy the Bangtail? It's called the freaking Bangtail. This hiking appreciation moment is brought to you by Oboz of Bozeman, Montana, certified B Corp, 6 million tree planter, and proud inhabitant of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Oboz is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboz. Love hiking. All right, lighting electronics, interesting one. Because the top 5 I listed here, what we should talk about. Petzl, which came up on our gear conversation.
Pretzel. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Garmin, Goal Zero, our favorite brand, Coast, Justin, and your other favorite brand, BioLite. So you got a couple of winners on here that are brands you really like. Where do you fall in on the electronic conversation, Shawnté?
Oh, all right. So I am coming into this from a couple different perspectives. I don't know if I've mentioned at least 30 times so far, I backpack and I trail run. But I'm also a guidebook author. And so for me, Garmin has become sort of my buddy in life electronically for all things outdoor. I've got the Garmin Instinct. I've got a solar watch. I've got an old ass eTrex 20 that is like one of their earliest handheld, GPS devices. Garmin is, you've got the InReach. I have an InReach Mini. It is, at least for people who do things on trails, I think it's become a really important brand. I think people know there's the brand recognition, but they trust it, and they have a pretty sweeping suite of products. I think that they have great apps too that go with them, which has been a pleasant surprise. So all around for me, I'm a Garmin girl.
Do we need to mention like the Suntos? I mean, is there a debate still about the sort of that kind of GPS category?
I don't think so. I think Garmin has sort of. I think Coros has sort of snuck into the conversation. But I really do think. I mean, Sunto. Their compasses still are bar none for me. Like that's the compass I carry as a Sunto compass. But I don't know. I think Garmin has just sort of run away from the pack here.
Oh, and what do you think? Electronics.
Yeah, I mean, Garmin is by far and away the leader from a macro perspective. The challenge a little bit as a retailer is, again, super low margins, like 20% margins, which is tough. The other thing that can be tricky is just that that there's the versioning means that your inventory gets out of date pretty quickly. And so if you've got the Phoenix Bubba and they come out with the Wubba, suddenly the old one is selling below your cost. So it can be challenging there, but it is the leader. And if you want to be in the electronics play, I think you have to have it. There are some great, obviously, lighting brands here, Petzl, Coast, Black Diamond, obviously, as well, from a headlamp perspective, although they're already on the list, so we're going to kind of give them a pass here. And BioLite's maybe a little bit specialty, so I think it has to be Garmin, but
I think
I would give it a.
We need a lighting brand. We can't.
You
The
have
top
to have
5
lighting because you have to have it
lighting.
in the store.
Yeah, we
you have
can't
to have
it
lighting in your store.
Exactly. And I want to make the case for Coast, based. I know we've shown them a lot of love in this podcast, but that's also when we get to camp. Like half of the camp list that we have is like knives and axes and stuff like that. And if you had a brand like Coast on the list, not only do they have our favorite headlamp of all time, Justin, still got it right here, the talking one, and and also they make multi-tools. They have a lot of different stuff in that line. I think Coast is a brand that's just come out of. I didn't know about them until I think we started doing the pod like a year and a half ago, Justin. I
can tell you right now, Coast would be my lighting brand. No question about it. And I would say that even if I thought that might suffer in terms of sales initially, because I would talk them up to customers that walked in the door. I mean, every single Coast lighting element I have, except for the talking headlamp thing, which is because it feels like it's made of plastic.
Right.
Because it is. But all the flashlights and everything else I've had from them is like the most well-designed, well-performing piece of technology I've ever used in the outdoor space. So like Coast would be my lighting option right off the bat. No questions asked.
It's really interesting to hear you guys talk about Coast in this way, because for many, many years, Coast was a kind of an entry-level price point brand. I mean, quite frankly, I'm not sure that we even carried it at Moose Jaw just because there were sort of higher end options that were out there that were more specialty. So I haven't been that close to the brand in a number of years, and it sounds like they've really stepped up their game.
I never
really
heard of them
have.
until
Their stuff
Gear
is
Junkie
fantastic.
wrote about the talking headlamp, and then Justin and I we spent an episode making fun of them. Like, who needs a talking headlamp? This is the dumbest thing we've ever heard. And then we saw it at OR, and then they sent us one, and immediately we're like, we were wrong. This thing's awesome.
Yeah.
And then they also sent us a couple other handheld lights, little flashlights and whatnot. And to Justin's point, impeccably designed, incredible materials. So same thing. I didn't know about them until like a year or so ago. But then again, I mean, it's hard to deny like having a Petzl in your shop too. I don't know. Shawnté, what do you think about lighting?
Well, I will say that I didn't hear about Coast until today. I historically have been a Black Diamond headlamp girl, and then I elevated my headlamp gear thanks to one of many shopping trips on Garage Grown Gear. I upgraded to, I think, a BioLite. You know, backpacking, it's like we have kind of different needs, but I'm curious. I don't know if Coast makes lightweight. Like, you know, we're counting grams. We are that nerdy sometimes when you think about long distance backpacking. Because you're carrying this day over day over day. And so
I don't know about that. I don't know if they do. Like the BioLite
Yeah.
headlamps are the most comfortable, lightest ones I've ever used, and they're fantastic. I absolutely adore their headlamps.
Yeah,
the only
I love
Coast
them.
headlamp I have is the one that you can talk
And it's
to.
pretty
But I presume
chunky.
they make
Yeah.
lightweight ones as well.
Yeah, I don't need to talk to my headlamp.
You think that?
think
and
that.
then you have
Maybe after
you have the
going
opportunity.
on trail.
It's totally. Yeah,
does get lonely out
now
there.
we should clarify. They don't speak back to you.
Oh,
But
man.
boy, it would be nice if they did. I can't explain how freaking amazing it is to be riding
Wait.
your bike with a headlamp on and go like, Coast brighter, and then it just like it's brighter. It's absolutely amazing.
It's awesome.
Wow, so it's like an Alexa for your head.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Huh.
Which sounds ridiculous until you're using it, and then you think, why don't they all have this? It's really
Probably
pretty.
makes it heavier.
So the moral of the story here is you can be bought with product, apparently.
If
If
cool
it kicks
product.
ass, yeah. Believe me, my
Okay.
garage is full of stuff that sucks, and I'm not talking it up.
Well, I feel like as much as we're gushing on Coast, it feels like just based off of even the comfort and the lightweights, should we carry BioLite into the out of this category along with Garmin?
Yes.
Probably. I mean,
Owen?
I mean, if we keep talking about innovation in this space
Yeah.
and the need for innovation in the outdoors, and BioLite has, I would say, led the pack over the last decade. So we've got to at least give them some love.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it makes more sense to advance them than Coast, even though I would stock Coast.
Perfect. All right. So we've got Garmin and BioLite coming out of lighting and electronics. By the way, some other ones on the list. We mentioned Goal Zero. You know who else was Princeton Tech, which was, I think, my first headlamp ever was a Princeton
Wow.
Tech headlamp. Just at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
bottom, like
Yeah.
just clinging on with its fingernails at the bottom of this list. Like, poor Princeton Tech. I think you guys all seem like you at one point had a Princeton Tech headlamp
Everybody
as well.
did.
Oh, we've
Yeah,
all had
right.
Princeton
Oh, yeah,
Tech.
absolutely.
Yeah, right.
And I've had Luminade,
the
but I
other-
can't remember what I had.
They're
from
the
them.
little inflatable lanterns. It started
That's
as, I think,
right.
like
That's right.
sending them to
Yeah.
NGOs.
The other one is Streamlight. I mean, if you want a really, really good high-end flashlight, Streamlight would be the brand I would go with.
I haven't heard of them either. So many fun little brands to learn about.
Right. All right. Next category, eyewear. So
Mhm.
Oh boy.
eyewear's an interesting one. I mean, the longest time it felt like you'd walk into a specialty shop and there'd be like 8 different like column, like lit up displays with all the different kind of expensive eyewear brands. And now between like Pit Viper and Gooder, like they just kind of came along and like wrecked the model. So now you're going to have those, like every shop's going to have a Gooder and then like one sort of expensive, alternative as well. For the sake of the conversation, I threw in the list, I think Gooder has to be mentioned and debated, as well as Smith and Oakley. But I mean, we have Maui Jim, you got Ray-Ban, Costa Del Mar, and then you have accessories like Croquis and Chums and stuff like that too. So where do you guys fall on eyewear at this point?
I would say that of all of these brands, Costa Del Mar makes by far my favorite shades. Like no questions asked. I have a lot of their product. They are all extremely impressive, really well made. Love everything from them. But they don't make, biking glasses. They don't make skiing goggles. I mean, it'd be hard to have just them and not like Smith or Oakley, which is going to give you a bigger variety of things. But just for if I'm just looking for sunglasses, Costa Del Mar, no question asked. And I would say Chums, Croquis, etc. You can get those. Nobody cares about the brand.
Again,
of that.
gas station stuff, right?
Get one at a gas station. Yeah.
Owen, where do you fall on eyewear?
For a similar reason, it's Smith for me, just because they do cover so much more, and they really are at their core an enthusiast brand.
Yeah.
And you could argue Costa del Mar, came out of sort of the ocean fishing and that whole aspect of it. So is that an enthusiast brand? I don't know. But Smith at its core is for skiers, for mountain bikers, for people that are active in the outdoors.
Yep.
So to me, it's the one you have to have.
And then, because I'm sure we're going to catch some grief for not mentioning goggles on this list, right? So then that kind of covers that if you have a brand like that. Although I will say, and I want to hear, Shawnté, what you have to say about this, but I was talking with Wes Allen, our friend of the pod. He says that the brand that kills it for him is Maui Jim.
Huh.
Yeah. So like he said, we sell more than that than almost anything else in the shop. So
I wonder why that is. I've never owned a pair.
Neither have I. I feel like they're kind of dorky, personally.
Personally,
Yeah,
but I
older
think
customer,
there's
but
a
yeah.
certain. I think there's a certain subculture that has that. There's like a nostalgic feel
Sort
of
of.
Maui Jims.
Do they wear Keen Newports as well? That subculture,
Yes.
or
Probably.
what do you think about eyewear, Shawnté?
You know, I've had Julbo goggles, I've had Oakley's, I've had Gooder, and I will say my daily driver, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm traveling, running, hiking, is my Gooder glasses.
Same.
They're cheap. Their replacement policy is insane. I've replaced several pair within their warranty for free. But it is wild because you know who is carrying Gooder now? Very limited selection of Gooder. Target.
I was just going to guess Target. They seem like a Target brand.
So Gooder has jumped the shark a little bit, and so it may. I mean, but I just cannot pass up that price point and the fact that they stay on my face. Like that is what I want. I want sunglasses that stay on my face. I sweat like a hog. It is, I like wearing them a lot more than I like wearing like the techie glasses from Oakley, which I've had some. They're just not my thing. I don't like how they look. I don't like how they feel on my face. Gooder, I will wear them. I've got like 4 pair at home right now.
I want to give a shout out to Tifosi, which is also an excellent glasses for the price point. And they also cover a lot of categories. I mean, just kind of a daily wear, sure. And they're also my go-to mountain bike glasses. So I also big fan of Tifosi.
Has Native joined the ranks of the zombie brands, Owen? Or is Native? They were a big deal for a little while.
They were big for a while. I still have a ton of Natives that I got for free back in the day.
It was not hard to get free Natives back in the day.
No, it was not. Natives and Smiths are basically all that I think I have. But that's more to do with their pro deal than maybe anything else. I don't know where Native is these days. They really kind of screwed the pooch there about 6-7 years ago, and
haven't come back. Well, let's carry Gooder and Smith into the finals. I think Gooder. We'll keep an eye on the Target a bit, and maybe in the future that takes them out of the conversation. I feel like they've changed the game a little too much in outdoor for us not to include them at least in this round. And I'm with you, Shawnté. Like they checked almost every box I need, and then you put on a nice pair of sunglasses. You're like, oh, okay, I see the difference. But it's also like $25 versus $250. Like, I don't know. I'll take my Gooders. I think I'm okay on these. So, all right, we'll carry those two over. You're listening to Rockfight Radio. Hey, ladies, germs, and groms, it's DJ CT, and you're listening to Rockfight Radio. Get ready for more of that whole foot comfort from Fitz, because we have the follow-up to their massive hit single, Bold Sock. Here it is. Let's drop the needle on So Many Fits.
There's a Fitz for the snow, the road or the trail, like picking a salad from romaine, iceberg or kale, from small to double XL, every size in the line. Custom comfort dressing fits every time. Cushion so thin you barely know it's there. Or max out the padding, warm beyond compare. Boots to no shows, invisibles too. Whatever you're after, there's a Fitz for you. So many fits to fit you just right. Whole foot comfort, day or night. From the heel to the toe, the solid to the fair, like a sock custom made for you to wear. Oh, so many fits, yeah, so many fits. No matter your size, no matter your style, Fitz will take you mile by mile. With cushioning choices and sizes galore, slip them on once and you'll ask for more.
And now, back to the show. And we had 2 more categories. Hydration is next. And for the sake of the conversation started, I had as our top 4 here: Yeti, Hydro Flask, Nalgene, and Stanley. So who would like to kick off hydration?
Yeti's water bottles are the best water bottles in the world. Just gonna say it. They're
Why?
plastic ones.
Yeah, why?
Defend yourself.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, seriously.
Phenomenal in the hand. The one I'm talking. The one I don't know if there's
Phenomenal
a
in the hand. Wow,
I
the
don't-
hand feel is what you like.
for real. Like I don't know the model name, but they make these. They're like version of Nalgene, and they have like flat sides, but they're round but with flat sides, so you just grip them really well. They have like a cool like double stage lid that makes it. You can fill it really big. You can screw on the smaller lid to drink out of that. They have a nice handle on them. They're just like by far the best. Like so good.
You made that sound so complicated. All I want is an Nalgene. I want a cylinder. Yes, that's the theme of me today is things. I want cylinders to put things in. I want a cylinder. It screws on,
Can
screws
you put your
off.
toes in an Nalgene?
You could. I haven't, but I may try later. I don't know. But it's to me.
Somebody
it's-
has.
Somebody has. There are people out that's a niche market. That's the next episode. Is foot fetishes in the outdoors. So it's how I'm going to make my millions. But I think Nalgene, it's a classic brand. They now make them in multiple sizes. You can get the super size Nalgene. You can get the tiny baby Nalgene. You could put some eggs in there. You could put some water in there. You can, put your drugs in there. I don't know what you're doing with your Nalgene. It's up to you. That's the beauty of a Nalgene. It fits for everybody.
Let me just piggyback off of that. I want to get to you, but the thing I was going to ride for Nalgene as well, and the thing I'll yes and with that is nothing speaks adventure more to me than a Nalgene bottle. Like if anybody's going in to buy a bottle, if they go out and do something in outdoors, it's a Nalgene bottle. And I think right now there's a little bit of we have not yet had a new ascendant top of the mountain brand like that'll replace Stanley. We've got like Owala's on the rise. We have a few other brands that are trying to kind of get the title, but maybe 18 months ago we would have had to just automatically advance Stanley here. To me, it's always about the Nalgene bottle. You can use it in your lifestyle as a lifestyle. You can use it in the backcountry. It's tried and it's proven. I'm a Nalgene person as well. But
I mean, I have a Nalgene that's specifically just for peeing into in the winter. I should specify
You
that's
wanna
when
mix
I'm on a
those up.
mountain. Not just at home. Not at home. I use the toilet there.
what do you think, Owen?
I'm still thinking about the pee Nalgene, but anyway, I hope it's a very specific color.
It is.
It's got some stickers
You
on
wrote
it.
pee
Okay.
bottle on the side.
It's one of those old Nalgenes. It's like kind of whitish, clearish. It has a red cap.
It's the one with
and it just
BPA in
says, it says do not, the BPA pee bottle. It says do not drink
There you go.
everywhere on the bottle. Don't worry, Owen. I don't want you to have nightmares
Okay.
tonight.
All right. Drinkware is a really funny category just because it has been very, very trend driven over the years, right? I mean, it's like it's sort of like history repeats itself. Every 2 years we get a new big drink category. Whether it was obviously Yeti came along, and then we had Hydro Flask, and then we had Stanley, and I think the whole Stanley thing has jumped the shark. They continue to kind of try to feed that beast, but it's become a kind of a suburban housewife brand in my mind. So I would knock Stanley out of the mix. Hydro Flask is now in Costco and Target. I would knock them out of the mix. Yeti is Yeti. And I mean, I don't know how you can't have a conversation that includes Yeti when they're so big in drinkware, in coolers, and every other thing. So I think you have to have Yeti. But yeah, now Nalgene is kind of the steady Eddie. When you go and you play around with these sexy drinkware brands, Nalgene's always there, plugging away as the core. I mean, it's never gonna. I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna have its own moment again, but it's the core of the core, if you will.
I mean, you can drink out of it. You can pee right back into it. It does everything.
What product? And I mean this sincerely. When you say I'm going on an adventure, what the product, think of a product in your mind that speaks to that. It's a Nalgene bottle. And maybe that's the 1990s, outdoorsy person that lives inside of me still, but that's just like, that is like the kind of go-to thing. Like I got to get your Nalgene bottle. And the other thing
I
I'll
took
say,
2 of them to Kilimanjaro.
there you go. The other thing, Yeti is like kicked specialty retail to the curb for the most part. So I'm okay leaving them off this list, but you're absolutely right, and Justin's right too. I have Yeti stuff and it's great, so it's kind of hard not to discuss them. I have Yeti.
Does Nalgene make thermoses? They make insulated stuff too.
I don't think so.
They don't need to. They have one product they make really well in different sizes. Everybody loves it.
I have Nalgene and Yeti Yellow. What do we want to do? This is the hardest decision we've had to make so far.
The thing is, you're calling this category hydration. So when I think about coolers and things like that, I mean, you're kind of stretching. I get where you're going with that, but
It's
that's a different,
yeah.
that's camp kitchen to me. That's a different category. So if you're just talking hydration,
Yeah.
you've got the Camelbacks, you've got, water filters, I guess, in there,
Life Straw.
Platypus, Life Straw, all that jazz. But really, like, what is the core hydration thing you're thinking of carrying in a store? It's a Nalgene.
Yeah, that's true.
Are we going Nalgene? Are we green in it?
Let's do it.
It sounds like you have to.
Yes. So happy I won that.
Because I said.
All right, last category, and definitely the broadest and probably to inspire the most debate here is camp. So I threw 3 in for debate, but there is a lot to cover. Although I did mention it earlier, that a lot of them are knives. But Sea to Summit, which I might just make an automatic green. It's almost like tell me we're not going to do Sea to Summit here. But then GCI, so for camp chairs, things like that, and Nickwax, because
Why
it just shows
Nickwax?
you the. Because it's kind of another one of those things
not
you're
an
gonna have it in
accessory.
your shop.
But it's not an accessory. It's a
Nickwax
it's
is an
a
accessory?
cleaning product. It's a
I don't think I
cleaning
would.
product.
Yeah, no, and nobody cares. I mean,
It's a
like
waterproofer.
it does a good job, but I mean, like I
It's not an accessory.
Fine.
Yeah.
All right.
I wouldn't have Nickwax in there.
Helinox.
Helinox.
Is that what is it? Hela? Is it Hela or Hella?
I say Helinox.
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 Listen, other thing on the list to
There's
kind of get
one
into
L.
it, you've got Gerber Knives, you have ENO, Eagles Nest Outfitters, Leatherman's on this list, Adventure Medical is on this list, Catadine, Victorinox, Ignic, Grail. There's just a
I
ton
mean,
of.
It's too broad.
It's a-
why, I can't compare Leatherman to Sea to Summit. I mean,
No.
Sea to Summit doesn't make knives.
Different vibes. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could have a knife. You could have like a sharp things category.
This is the exercise.
I'm not gonna not have a knife, but I mean, I wouldn't. But I should have to choose between a knife or like a camp
Well,
kitchen.
remember that when we put Coast on the list.
We split up nutrition into food versus yeah. So I think let's split out
Non-pointy
knives slash
things.
tools,
Yeah.
non-pointy things from pointy things. Yeah,
Okay, so take out the pointy things on the list.
right.
I still say
I mean,
it's
for
probably
me, it's
Sea to Summit.
It's Sea to Summit all day long
Sea
to
to
me.
Summit. Yeah.
It is. I mean, GCI does huge volume, but almost all of it is in one product or one product family, which is their rocker glider chair. I mean, they just kill with that product, and they make a lot of other good stuff too. But it's camp furniture. It's what it is. But as a true accessory brand, and a lot of other stuff too, I think you've got to go see the Summit.
Yeah. They do it all, and they do it all pretty well.
Knives are tough. I mean, I'd probably as we know, Colin, I don't really give a shit about multi-tools. Big fan of Gerber. I mean, most of my knives are Gerber.
Yeah, but you're going to carry Leatherman, right? Isn't that what you would
Yeah.
probably
I
carry?
guess. I don't know. I mean,
Don't you have
it's-
multiple
what
things
sucks
you
is,
want to
like, I don't
want to
have to. I don't want to have to carry things just because I feel like they're going to sell. Like that makes the exercise less fun. I mean, I don't need a Leatherman, but I need a knife.
I don't need a knife, but I need a Leatherman
For what?
for all of the things I have to do.
Like,
I don't
for
know what I
example?
need to do in my life. What if I need to unscrew something?
How many
Then-
times have you done that?
You
While
know,
backpacking.
this isn't about my personal habits, Justin. This is about the people and what accessories are right for
You need
them.
to go back and listen to our shows about multi-tools. People think they need them, but they never really do. You need a knife. That's really what you need. And I would have Gerber
Hold
before I
on.
have Leatherman.
Oh, and how many Leathermans did you guys sell at Moose Jaw Mountaineering?
But that's not the point. I mean,
But it
that's-
matters.
Fair amount, but again, the challenge with Leatherman is distribution, right? It's pretty widely distributed. You
Yeah,
can
you get that at Target.
probably get it at a better price
Right.
elsewhere.
Yep.
I mean, really, Benchmade was the brand.
Benchmates
for
are
us
so
here.
good too. Benchmates are great.
Yeah, that was the knife brand that really, and Gerber, and SOG, and we had a bunch of different knife brands. But Benchmade, I think, in terms of like a specialty outdoor store, would be the one that I would stock before I would stock some of these other ones.
Well, if we put Coast in, then Coast takes care of knives and it does lighting as well. Just saying.
Yeah.
So, all right, so pick a knife brand. You guys want to just do Benchmade for the sake of the final
I'm
list?
happy with Benchmade. I like them and Gerber
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Benchmade.
Although I do have a Leatherman that was etched into by Mr. Leatherman. What's his name?
By Tim. I think it's Tim Leatherman.
Tim Leatherman.
I
I
love
met
that
him
somebody's
at
name.
OR. Yeah. He etched to Shawnté from Tim into my Leatherman.
I still
Wow.
cannot believe that's actually someone's last name. That's such a funny thing.
Mr. Leatherman. It sounds dirty. Sorry, Tim. Leatherman.
Not as dirty as your Nalgene bottle.
Nah,
I've had
it's
an horrible
hey,
one.
I clean it after every trip. Haven't peed in it in a while. The peeing one.
All right, so our final list that we have to choose from to create the top 5 outdoor accessories list as approved by the Rock Fight. We have Sea to Summit, Benchmade, Nalgene, Honey Stinger, Mountain House, Smartwool, Garmin, BioLite, and Outdoor Research.
You missed the Gooder and Smith as
Oh
well.
my God, I forgot eyewear. Sheesh, yeah, Gooder and Smith.
I'm not picking 5.
We're picking 5.
I'm not picking 5.
We gotta
you're
get
gonna
to
leave
5.
categories out that
Justin.
you're going to leave categories out that you have to have. 5 is an arbitrary number.
Yes.
And
That's the whole
Yes.
point, Justin.
That's
This is
the
all
point.
but it makes
arbitrary.
But it makes no sense. I mean, if you're gonna base your decision on what to stock based on whether it will sell or not, and then at the same time go, we're only going to list 5 things.
Come on,
I mean, that
you
doesn't make
knew,
it-
you knew entering the arena that this was a silly exercise.
Yeah, but now that I see it all and listed
Yeah.
out, it's just like,
Hey, these are the rules of the game.
Exactly.
well, I wouldn't have food.
Justin, think about when we get to apparel.
I know.
And there can only be 5 apparel
God, you're
brands.
gonna
Well,
be
then,
so
gonna be
we don't
amazing.
need food.
That's going to be a
Food-
bloodbath.
We all
Get food.
we all need food, but that's fine. Take it off.
Yeah, we don't need Honey Stinger or Mountain House. You can get your food at the store at the grocery store.
Go with.
So,
I mean, I think the most well-rounded things. Put outdoor research over there. You
Yeah,
know,
I
it's
would
like
too.
think about the things that have the most varieties. You know.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sea to
BioLite.
Summit,
Agreed.
Smartwool, Outdoor Research, automatic ins.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Garmin. Yes.
No sunglasses.
Sunglasses you can get at the. I mean, if you can
You
get those
can
somewhere
actually,
else.
and I have.
You can.
I've got my sunglasses. You're,
anywhere.
you're pumping gas.
Yeah,
you
you
go
can
pick
go
up a pair of
somewhere else.
sunglasses.
The knife one is tough, but you can kind of get by without
There's
it.
whole stores at the mall that sell knives.
At Sea to Summit might sell knives. Actually, I'm not sure. They may have like a camp knife.
Is it too chalk though? Sea to Summit, Smartwool, Outdoor Research. Like, yeah, of course you have those guys on the list. Should we? Is it unoriginal?
You just fucking said the whole point is will it sell or not?
No, that
Make
was
up
a
your damn mind.
consideration. It was a consideration.
Justin, we don't actually have to open a store after this episode.
think Justin thinks
You're
that
gonna
we
be
do.
I
right.
take all of these things very literally.
Owen, weigh in, please. What do you think of this 5?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably, I think we've got 2 sort of lighting-y, electronic-y things. Is there another brand that we would bring in
I don't
instead?
think I need
potentially?
Smartwool. I don't think I feel like socks you can get wool socks at Target. They might not be Smartwool, but you can get them there.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah, but if you're going to be a core outdoor store, you've
You gotta
got to
have
have
Smartwool.
Smartwool. It also, and Smartwool also obviously gets you base layer and a bunch of other things as well. It also gets you hats. I mean, you're going to have to
You
fight
gotta
me over
put. He just took
Smartwool.
Garmin off. Put Garmin back over there.
I
Where
would
are
not
you going
put
to get Garmin?
get yeah. There you go. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
All right. The voting has closed, and we have our lists. The top 5 outdoor accessories. By the Rock Fight says it is Sea to Summit, Smartwool, Outdoor Research, Garmin, and BioLite. That's a pretty diverse list, actually.
I'm actually
cool.
pretty okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Aw, we brought him around. Good job, buddy.
Aw,
Shantae's going to start talking about Injinji a little bit more in a second here. So,
I'm not. I would just start talking about bidets. You know me.
yeah, I guess last thing, any sort of, Shawnté, any accessory brands you would wish we had talked about that we didn't? Any brands that you want to throw out there?
Oh God, I don't know. Give me a second to think about that.
All right.
But do Nalgene's have a bidet accessory? I mean, how does that work?
No, you just pee straight into it. Oh, you mean as for after pee
Yeah.
and after
Yes,
pee accessory?
and after.
Don't-
Yes.
No, although aren't there's those little like thinner Nalgenes now that you probably could. I just actually
you could figure it out.
I
yeah.
recently tried out like 4 different tiny bidet attachments for water bottles. So if they had the right threading on the small Nalgenes, it's all possible. But you got to be able to squeeze
Right.
it, so it would have to be one of the squeezy ones.
Of course. Yes. Yeah.
Squeezies.
All right, everyone, we can wrap it up there. We got our top 5 list. That means apparel is on the horizon, and like Owen alluded to earlier, that is going to be a bloodbath. That is going to be an exciting episode to do. It'll probably take like 3 hours to get through that one. But come back on Wednesday. Justin and I are going to be running through headlines to come out of the outdoor adventure community, including our latest edition of Q&A Corner, which went really well. We got listeners writing in. Can't wait to tell you about that. Also, come back on Friday. Owen and I are going to be breaking down the cornucopia of news to come out of the North Face's latest Investor Day. That'll be on Friday. Be sure to check out Doug Schnitzbon's podcast, Open Container, on the Rock Fight Podcast Network. You can listen to it on whatever platform you're listening to us right now. And we want your emails, especially about this episode. Tell us about pee bottles, Injinji socks, Justin's knives, whatever you want to tell us. Send your feedback in, guys. Send it to myrockfight@gmail.com. And the Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC. Our producer today was not David Karstad. He missed out, but our art direction was still provided by Sarah Gensert. For Shawnté Salabert, thanks for joining, Shawnté. Justin Housman, and Eoin Comerford, I'm Colin True. Thanks for listening. And Krista Makes is here to take us out and sing the Rock Fight fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.
Rock fight.